Hi, everybody. This is Hondo Carpenter, your Las Vegas Raiders beat writer on Sports Illustrated and the host of the Las Vegas Raiders Insider Podcast, joined now by my very dear friend. His name is Matt Holatic. He's the editor and publisher of thespun.com, whereas I cover the NFL microly, which means specifically to a team. He covers it macroly. We like to bring him in once a week where we just talk about the NFL, we talk about the Raiders, we talk about everything in totality because it's able to keep people connected with everything going on and how it relates, of course, to the Las Vegas Raiders. Matt, first of all, thank you for joining us. I want to apologize about the light, little bit of internet issues here in Vegas, but hey, we keep going. We're moving along. I want to start out with the Raiders. This is, and I've told you this back because we've been friends for decades. This goes back, and you knew this when I was covering Matt Millen as a beat writer in Detroit, a dear friend, and he would tell me about the Raider Nation and how passionate they are. This is my fifth season, and these people are unbelievable. The crowd in LA was 70-30 Raiders. Unbelievable. These people are there. The franchise sells them just win. The passion of these people, and you know I feel this way privately and I say it publicly, is unbelievable. When you turn on that football game and it's literally a home crowd for them against the Chargers, will you talk about the passion of this fan base? Because I think it's met by some colleges, but I don't know anybody in the NFL. I think the Steelers are the same, but I think there are very few that are as passionate. I don't think Cowboys fans are. I think there's a massive amount of Cowboy fans, but if you ever let them go through what the Raiders have gone through, I don't think they would be as passionate. But Steelers and Green Bay maybe. But I'd love your thoughts on Raider Nation and their passion.
Right, and I think we've seen the last few years since they moved to LA and they moved to SoFi, the Chargers' home stadium just gets overtaken by opposing fans more often than not, and the Raiders certainly brought it. Obviously there's a rivalry there for a long time in the AFC West, and they were ready to go. They were fired up, the fans, after Antonio Pierce did a nice job last year as the interim, and there's some. I mean, obviously, the fans came in, they had concerns about quarterback, they had concerns about some positions on the team, but there was some enthusiasm for sure about the season going in. I think it's a testament to how you said how fervent their passion is, and how loyal they are, because they haven't seen a lot of success recently, and even after losing on Sunday, I expect the Raider fans. I expect there to be a pretty big crowd on the road this week. I think there will be when you come back for the home opener in Vegas in a couple of weeks. It's going to be insane. Um, so I think it goes without saying that it's if it's not the top fan base in the NFL, it's right up there.
The thing that gets me is, and I want to give Detroit Lion fans credit too, because Detroit Lions they sell out when the
Mhm.
Lions were terrible, which was 95% of my lifetime. And I have so much respect for fan bases that are there. And the difference is years ago, when I was growing up, the Chicago Cubs had been terrible for nearly a century. And they sold every game out. They were called lovable losers. I remember being in Detroit covering a game, and they had just been bad for decades. And they lose the first game of the year, and the crowd at the end starts chanting, "We love Lions," and they're losing. Let me tell you, Raider Nation has no patience for losing. They have been sold by their franchise, just win, baby. And so they know the game. Listen, there have been times when I was in Detroit where I, I remember I'm trying to think how I want to tell this story. Let me just say this. We had neighbors who had 8 season tickets.
Mhm.
And I remember one time they came home from a game and I said, "What'd you think of the game?" They go, "Oh, we don't watch. We go to get cocktails and it's just a party. We probably lost." And they laughed. Raiders Hey, what'd you think of the game? They're going to give you an hour breakdown. Well, they went to a cover two. We stayed with a three high. It's just different. It's passion with knowledge. It's like the St. Louis Cardinals in baseball. And to me, that's incredible. And when you look at these people and you think, man, somebody deserves some winning, it's certainly Raider Nation. Agreed?
I would agree, and I think that I hope for their sake that there is some winning coming. I don't know this year. Listen, I think we'll get into more week 2 and beyond. If there's, I think they lose to Baltimore. I don't think the season's over at 0-2. But I don't think they're going to be, a contender this year. We said that before the season. They're not going to be, a major contender. I hope that the Raiders in the near future get to a period of some sustained success. Even not even going back to 40 years ago with the 45 years ago with the championships and Al Davis and stuff like that. Even in the late 90s, early 2000s, when they had some few years where they made the playoffs, they were in the mix with John Gruden, get to a Super Bowl with Bill Callahan. Something like that would be great for Raider Nation at the very least.
Well, I agree. So I have to tell you a funny story, and you, of all people, will greatly appreciate this. I go out to eat yesterday. No big deal there. We're well used to me enjoying a good meal. I go out to eat yesterday, and there's a couple wearing Raider shirts, very nice looking couple, professional looking couple, and I get ready to leave. So I'm walking out, and I was walking out of my favorite restaurant in Boulder City, and the lady goes, now she's probably 75 years old. Uncle Hondo. I go, yes. She goes, come here. I said, all right. She goes, can you believe that punt? I said, which one? You know what one. I said, in the fourth quarter? Yeah. So she goes on this long, I mean, I'm trying to leave to get to an appointment. But I wasn't about to. I mean, she's my elder.
No,
I'm not
yeah.
about to say it. We get all done. She goes, I'm just going to tell you one thing. I go, what? She goes, F the Chargers.
That's great. And I
She
can't
didn't say
blame
F.
her. No, I can't blame her for that. I do want to know what did you get? Steak, prime rib? What was the meal?
Well, how do you know? Tell me how you know.
I've eaten with you before, so I know.
Prime rib.
But you're right about the woman and that passion, yeah.
I mean, and here's this older lady, and she doesn't bat an eye. I mean, she's a professional. F the Chargers. And I go, yes, ma'am. And I mean, it was just, and she starts talking about, I mean, she talked about people, we knew when we got AP exactly. He's learning. He's a great coach. But boy, then she just took off on Luke Getsy, the offensive coordinator. Oh my goodness. You got to have more patience with a rookie head coach. But this guy oh my goodness. Matt, I wish that I could have recorded that conversation because I would have put it up on YouTube and let every Raider fan see it. And her husband just sat there. You could tell he's like, hey, I'm just glad she's not mad at me. And I mean, it was.
No, I can imagine. I can definitely
It's
imagine.
fun. Their passion is unbelievable. All right, I want to turn because I expect the Raiders to lose this weekend. Let's talk about Lamar Jackson. I was stunned when the Baltimore Ravens basically said to him, okay, you want a different contract? Go find a team that's willing to trade for you. We'll trade you. Nobody kicked the tires. This is a guy that, in my opinion, he's not one because nobody's close to Patrick Mahomes. But this is a guy that I think's clearly in the top 2 through 4. I think you can make an argument with him, Josh Allen, Joe Burrow. But he's a great cornerback. Nobody wanted to kick the tires. I know he wanted Deshaun Watson money. We're going to get to that in a minute. And I don't think, that was reasonable. But the point was, nobody kicked the tires on this guy. This is a very good quarterback, a very, very good quarterback. And I think this team is dangerous. I don't think that they're a team like the Chargers that is as complete, but I still think they're a very good team. I'd love your thoughts on Lamar Jackson and the Ravens.
Well, I think that Lamar, I think deep down the Ravens wanted to keep him, but I think they wanted to make sure that, they were going to do things their way and they
Right.
were going to see if a team called their bluff because they would have had to give up 2 first-round picks. Now, honestly, I think Lamar's the type of quarterback where that price is worth considering, especially if you're a franchise that hasn't had a quality quarterback in a while.
Yep.
But the Raiders, obviously, he's with the Raiders. He's their franchise guy. I agree with
Ravens.
the Ravens. Excuse me. I'm thinking, yeah, with the Ravens, he's their franchise guy. I believe that I have him in the same level that you do. I think he's in that 2 through 4 range. I think that honestly, I think it's a toss up between him and Josh Allen for number 2. You could give me reasons for both that I would be totally fine with. Um, it stinks that the Ravens and the Bills and those teams are in the same conference as the best guy in the sport. So they're always going to have to beat Patrick Mahomes. But as far as this week goes, I think the Ravens are going to be motivated. John Harbaugh is going to have them as their home opener. They're coming off a tough loss to Kansas City. They have a little bit of extra time to prepare because it was a Thursday night game. Raiders going across the country, 1:00 start for a West Coast team. The recipe's there for, I don't want to say a blowout, but the recipe's there for it to get away from them if they don't get off to a good start, because the Ravens are going to be ready to go. So how they start this game is critical to what it looks like in the end. I'm expecting them to lose. I'm expecting 0-2, but I think when you look at the Raiders, if you're going to start 0-2, you want the next few games to look like what those games look like for the Raiders, because they come home for 2 they're going to be favored of the Panthers. The Panthers are probably the worst team in the league still. And then the Browns game's a toss-up, especially, Deshaun Watson looks awful. You don't even know if he's going to be starting by then. And then you play Denver's obviously not an easy game on the road, but I think that the Raiders are a better team right now than Denver. Denver has a rookie quarterback. And then you got a winnable game against the Steelers. So 0-2 is not the way you want to start, but with those 4 games coming up, you could still salvage something and kind of build some momentum even after starting 0-2.
I got to tell you, after they start, if they start 0-2, which I think they will, they've got 4 winnable games.
Right, yeah.
And if they have got to demonstrate in those 4 winnable games, okay, we're on the right path. And at the end of 6 games, hey, they're 4-2 because they've got a streak coming up of 4 brutal games.
Yes, I got that right in front of me, and I'm looking at that, and they're going to be underdogs in every game, and 3 of them are on the road, and the one home game is the Chiefs. Now, we saw them beat the Chiefs in Arrowhead last year, so it's not like they can't do it,
and should have beat them at home. They beat themselves.
Yeah, they could have swept them, and it's not going to be easy. Those are going to be 4 really hard games after that 4-game stretch that's manageable.
All right, let's talk about Gardner Minshew. The Raiders made it clear, once we pick our guy, he's our guy. We want to get off to a fast start in the first quarter of the season. I think there were a lot of reasons that the offense was not good last week. First, I think the offensive line, especially the left side, really struggled. I think Gardner Minshew checked down way too quick. Now some of it because he was getting beat up, some of it because he had to get rid of the football. I mean that's totally sensical, but I think there were some times when he rushed to checkdowns. I thought Luke Getsy didn't do some things to help his team play calling wise. But now I want to switch to a different part of the offense and get your thoughts on it. The Raiders struggled in short distance. So they get to the fourth quarter. They're in Bolt's territory. And rather than go for it on 4th and 1, Antonio Pierce kicks it. Now, I think, and I want you to hear me out because I'm not making excuses, I think his reasoning for not going for it made a lot of sense. We've got a great kicker. They pinned him inside the 10. Everything he said was correct. So he wasn't playing, he wasn't lying, he wasn't trying to spin it. But if you get down to the brass tacks of what he says, and he's a coach that goes for it all the time, it was a clear admission. I have no confidence in my offense to get this first down. Because if he thought, oh, yeah, they can get this, he would have went for it. If you're Luke Getzey, week one, with a coach whose motto is attack, 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 in a franchise where Al Davis's motto was, we don't take what the defense gives us, we take what we want. If you're that guy and you're Luke Getzey and it's only game one, that is a terribly uncomfortable position to be in. Would you not agree with that?
You're talking about if that the head coach already doesn't have confidence in your offense getting that short yardage there.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, listen, and at the time, what shocked me is, I think it was about. I'm trying to look up to be sure. It was about midway through the fourth quarter.
Yeah, there's
Little,
about like just over 7 minutes.
so there was some time left, but you don't know how many more possessions you're going to get. And it's a 6-point game, 1-score game. So for them to not trust the offense there, especially not being able to run the ball in that short yardage, that's a red flag. And listen, is it game specific? Did Antonio Pierce just kind of feel like, hey, we just don't have it today, or our line isn't bringing it. We don't match up well. I can't trust us to get this. And, starting on this Sunday or a couple weeks down the road, it'll be different depending on the situation. That's certainly possible. It's certainly possible. And I think
but let's I'm sorry. Go ahead, please. I'm sorry.
But I think that it's a negative sign to start the year like that, because you want to force the issue. You want to be that aggressive team. You want to have confidence in the offense. If you're playing from, a defensive kind of in a shell this early, it is a tough position to be in.
Especially considering he's gone for it multiple times. Mm-hmm. Early in the game, he went for it on 4th and 1 on his side of the 50. Mm-hmm. They had tried on some thirds and fourths in the game and missed. His track record is I go for it there. And so to me, that is a clear admission. If you think that your offense is going to get it and you're close to that end zone, you go do it. You just go do it. Mm-hmm. This is the first time I've watched him tap the brakes, and I think it sent a big message, and I think it's one that should make Luke Getzey very nervous. All right, last question for today, and I'm going to let you go. I have talked multiple times with you about contracts in the NFL. Dak gets his money, which I am all for it. I'm a free market capitalist. I want people to succeed and prosper. If the Cowboys had been better run, they would have done that deal months ago. Then they would have freed up some money for free agency this year. They did not. They ended up paying him probably more than they had to, even if they'd done the contract late last year. Same thing with CeeDee Lamb. They had to overpay CeeDee Lamb. Then you go and you turn around and you look at, Trevor Lawrence is a very good quarterback. I don't think he's done enough to be worth the money that he got. Deshaun Watson's money is ridiculous. When you look at some of the contracts, and I was having a conversation last night with a member of management for an NFL team. When you look at some of these contracts, the stupidity of some of the management is just beyond foolishness to me. The guy said, if I'm the GM of the Cowboys, I would have re-signed Dak, I would have re-signed CD, and I would have re-signed Micah. I just would have done it a while ago so they didn't have to overpay. He goes, there's 2 guys they overpaid, and because they waited, they're probably going to have to overpay Micah. You can't succeed in this league when you have to keep giving out max deals because you overpay. Are you not surprised sometimes at the ignorance of people managing NFL teams? Now, listen, in the interest of full disclosure, I think the Raiders for the last 2 years, going back to Dave Ziegler, through now are being tremendously smart with their cap. So tip of the hat to them. But it's just like drafting. There are some teams that are such poor drafters that guys fall. Some of these guys in management, and then we talked about the other day about Jerry Jones going off on an F-bomb tirade. Nobody's better than me. Okay, well, you've overpaid the last two contracts. Again, are you not shocked at what's going on?
It always is a bit sobering to see that. I mean, look here in New York with the Giants overpaying Daniel Jones off of one playoff season. They can get out of the contract at the end of this year, but they might have gotten their whole front office and coaching staff fired because of it, and they wasted 2 years. I think one of the things that always amazes me is that I look at the well-run organizations. Like if you look at the Eagles are aggressive. They make mistakes too. They made a mistake with Carson Wentz a few years ago. Howie Roseman's traded for some veterans in season that really didn't make an impact last couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
So when you go for it, you're not batting. No one bats 1,000. No one bats triple zeros. But because they are smart about how they do things, and because they're forward thinking and they're always prepared, they're ready to pounce when organizations that aren't well run make mistakes. That's why they're able to get guys in trades on the cheap. That's why they're able to go all in with the Saquon Barkley, because the Giants couldn't afford to pay him because he was just basically being wasted there. Whereas in Philly, he's going to be the piece that potentially puts them over the top. So I think every year you see more and more the dichotomy between the smartly run franchises and the ones that aren't. Another example, the 49ers. They make mistakes. They've had some bad drafts. Solomon Thomas was a miss in the top 5. The Trey Lance trade is one of the worst trades we've ever seen in the NFL. But they have done everything else smartly, and they've drafted well. And look, the Commanders get into a dispute with Trent Williams, who's their best player and one of the best offensive linemen maybe ever. And the 49ers are there just to give a pick or whatever and get a guy that's anchored their offensive line. So It's all about being smart, and in some cases waiting for the bad teams or the more poorly run teams to screw up, and you can take advantage. So I'm not amazed, but it is always sobering. It is always, a smack in the face to see how many huge mistakes franchises make, because there are some of these mistakes we're talking about are ones that a lot of fans call out right away. And these organizations are supposed to be smarter. They have more information than the fans because they're on the inside and they're, working with this hands-on, and they're still doing dumb stuff. So it is, and this goes in every sport, but we're talking about the NFL specifically, and it is always something that makes you shake your head.
It's pretty unbelievable to me. He's Matt Halatic. Matt, tell him how to find you on social media.
Sure, you can find me on X, Twitter, whatever you call it, at Matt Haladik 919, at MATTHLADIK 919. I'm there. I'm active. I'm always talking about the NFL, talking about anything else. Probably. If you could put up with Yankee playoff talk in the next few weeks, then just come find me.
All right. Thanks, Matt. Good to see you. We'll see you again soon.